she did me this enormous favor, this enormous retirement gift to let me step back to my original dream from 50 years ago and step back on the stage. And that I might not come through. I may let her down a little bit. So I've got that driving force behind.
This project, above many others, perhaps all others that I've ever done, has really fallen into place in a really beautiful way for me and for the actors and for the town of Sag Harbor. It just feels so right. And so I guess having my dad in the room only makes it feel even more kismet and even more personal and even more special.
I have directed Cameron on stage as well. The teacher saw me outside one day and said, "Could you help me direct this little play?" I had nothing to do with the casting, so I didn't have to say, well, as long as my daughter is the lead. No, she'd already been cast, so I stepped in and I directed Juan Bobo, and that's very high on my resume.
I'm way too harsh on him. I'll be really, really gentle with Jake and Ellie and Anna, and so grateful for their time. And then I'll be like, "Hey, Don, you missed your entrance again."
Well, I have not felt bullied at all, and in fact, did miss those entrances. And it's well known that it's a little harder to memorize lines the older you get, and I've gotten older, and this was it was a challenge, and still is a challenge, to keep all those words in my brain.
It's amazing, kind of coming, I guess, being thrust into localness here because it's such an elite thing. Sag Harbor obviously is such a beautiful, historied mom and pop village, but because of that, it attracts so many people from all over the world, that being a local, much like being a local in New York City, is a really coveted and rare thing. I think that this play is really a love story and a love letter to a place like Sag Harbor, a place that has a community and one that is simultaneously welcoming, but characteristic. Yeah, it just feels so lucky to get to live and work here, especially sharing art with other fellow Sag Harborites.
I fell in love with theater as a kid. I also fell in love with sports and went back and forth from one to the other. And when I got to college, for some reason, there was no interest in a 5'3" football quarterback. And so I slid into the theater department again, spent my entire 4 years at Penn State hanging out with the actors and doing everything I could to get on stage. Ended up being a broadcasting major only because I didn't have the guts to tell my dad I was going to be an acting major, yet didn't have any driving interest in television until I directed a live multiple camera studio show as sort of my final project my senior year, and discovered that I kind of had an affinity for that. I thought, oh, that was an adrenaline rush, and I kind of enjoyed that. But it also feels familiar. I know what that's like, being a quarterback of a football team. And I liked that feeling and kind of kept it and maintained it and became a television director because of it, and still got that rush, that adrenaline rush every Saturday night when I was doing live television. And so I had a pretty challenging and rewarding career as a television director as a result. But now it's come full circle, and I'm back on stage, at least for 3 performances, and could not be more excited.
I was lucky enough to grow up in New York City with cultural access, both from my dad and through my mom, who was a ballerina and also loves the theater. So both of my parents really raised me with a reverence for this art. They introduced it to me not as this is a career and this is a choice and this must be your thing, but more of they shared their passion with me. And so it became my career without choice.
From the beginning, she had this passion for the entire process, from the very first written word to the to the strike at the end of a run. It was the storytelling process. She went to the High School for the Performing Arts here in Manhattan, the famous Fame School. After her first year, she said, Daddy, I don't think I want to be an actor so much as I would like to be a director. And I started to puff up a little bit. I thought, oh, she wants to follow her dad's footsteps. And then she said, but not like you. I want to be a real director. I want to direct actors on stage, not that TV comedy stuff. It just warms my heart that she found something that's so dear to all of us. It's so important to the world. And I find it just a charming, heartwarming, and heartbreaking story of how those worlds come together in the heat of Indian summer.
Yeah,